Hey everybody, welcome to ExoCast News. We're going to go through our breaking news updates for today. So the first thing we got is Rachel Kleinman through LinkedIn said that private hiring is increasing, stretching across more sectors. May marked the strongest month for private payrolls since January 2025, as employers added 122,000 jobs compared to 105,000 a month earlier. ADP reported Wednesday, while hiring in earlier months was concentrated in just a few sectors, May was more broad-based than we've seen in the last few years, the ADP chief economist Nella Richardson said. Separate data this week showed open positions hit an almost two-year high in April, defying analysts' expectations. On Friday, the Bureau of Labor Statistics is scheduled to release its employment report for May. John Tomas, through LinkedIn, also said that used electronic vehicle sales climbed as gas prices continue to skyrocket. The used electrical vehicle market is experiencing a resurgence thanks to a combination of affordability and onerous gas prices, Bloomberg reported. Used EV sales jumped 17% in the first 4 months of this year, with nearly 4 in 10 cars priced below $25,000, roughly half the cost of the average new car per Cox Automotive. The surge stands in contrast to a 27% drop in new EV purchases and a 7% decline in overall new car sales. Over 1 million used EVs are expected to hit the market by late next year. Meanwhile, gas remains above $4 a gallon per AAA. Katie Edmondson with the New York Times reported that Trump aims new tariffs at 59 countries and the European Union. Trump administration officials said they plan to impose levies of up to 12.5% on countries that failed to crack down on goods made with forced labor. President Trump has proposed tariffs of at least 10% on 60 American trading partners, his most aggressive effort yet to enact new import duties after the Supreme Court struck down the administration's sweeping tariffs. Jamieson Greer, the U.S. Trade Representative, said on Tuesday night that investigations found that the 59 countries, along with the 27-nation European Union, had failed to enact or effectively enforce laws prohibiting imports made with forced labor. The administration, invoking a legal provision known as Section 301, proposed a 12.5% duty on imports from countries including China, Brazil, South Korea, Switzerland, and the United Kingdom. Goods from the European Union, Canada, and Mexico would face 10% import taxes. According to King 5 News, Sammamish Landscaping Company building was destroyed in a fire. A building and over a dozen vehicles were destroyed in an overnight fire at Rich Landscaping on Redmond Falls City Road in East Sammamish, Washington State. According to Eyewitness News 3, CBS News' Scott Pelley is out at 60 Minutes. He apparently had a confrontation with the executive producer of 60 Minutes. He reportedly accused the editor-in-chief of trying to kill 60 Minutes. Top producers and 2 correspondents were fired last week. According to Samantha Davis with the Marshall Independent, a new era has officially begun for the Yellow Medicine East School District. School staff, faculty, students, community members, and partners gathered on Tuesday to mark the start of the campus's complete makeover in a groundbreaking ceremony. Today is the day we've all been dreaming about, talking about, and working toward for a very long time, YME Superintendent Rich Schneider said. Standing here on the brink of breaking ground for our new school building, I am filled with an overwhelming sense of pride and immense gratitude. The Granite Falls community strongly voted to pass a $74.395 million bond referendum last August with a large marginal passing rate of 70.6%. The bond will essentially support a remodel of campus that will address necessary aging infrastructure and accessibility. The current school buildings have infrastructure that is nearly a century old. The original middle and high school building dates back to 1930, while the Bart Rainey Elementary building was constructed in the 1950s. According to Live Now Fox, one is dead and multiple injured after Iran strikes Kuwait's main airport. Kuwait briefly shut its main airport Wednesday after Iranian drones heavily damaged a passenger terminal building, killed 1 person, and wounded dozens. The latest in back-and-forth attacks by Tehran and Washington attest a fragile ceasefire. Stan Cho with AP News wrote that oil prices are climbing back toward $100 and the record-breaking rally for U.S. stocks stalls. Oil prices are rising following the latest threats to the U.S.-Iran ceasefire, and U.S. stocks are stalling near their records. According to Christian Baha with Baha News, Zelensky is ready to talk to Putin and can't wait for the United States. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Wednesday expressed his readiness to negotiate directly with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin to end the war, adding that he cannot rely on the United States to resolve all conflicts in the world. Unfortunately, we are not the focus today. In my view, Iran is the number one issue for the United States of America, and then comes the question of Ukraine. Unfortunately, we are in a queue of these wars, Zelensky said during his meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, as reported by the Ukrainian Independent Information Agency of News, or Union. Once again, the Ukrainian leader emphasized that the U.S. can pressure Putin to bring the conflict to an end. However, Zelensky stressed Europe also has to be involved in the peace process, but concluded by stating that Kyiv cannot wait in line for everyone to finish all the conflicts in the world before it's our turn. ABC News then reported that Ukrainian drones hit one of Russia's largest oil terminals in St. Petersburg, sending plumes of black smoke towering over the city as the landmark St. Petersburg International Economic Forum prepared to open. According to Shafaq News, Kuwait cuts Iranian embassy staff over strikes. Kuwait summoned Iran's charge d'affaires on Wednesday to deliver an official protest note over Iranian attacks on the country, the Kuwaiti Foreign Ministry announced. Kuwait had also decided to reduce the number of staff at the Iranian embassy and declared 2 members of the diplomatic mission persona non grata, ordering them to leave the country within 24 hours. Earlier today, Kuwait's health ministry reported 63 injuries in the Iranian attack, including civilians, employees of Kuwait International Airport, and several passengers. The Kuwaiti military reported intercepting 13 ballistic missiles and 17 drones during the incident, adding that the strikes killed 1 Indian national, injured several others, and caused significant damage at multiple locations. Kuwait, which hosts several U.S. military facilities, has previously faced similar Iranian assaults. The U.S. CENTCOM indicated that it intercepted multiple Iranian strikes targeting regional allies and stated that 2 missiles launched toward Kuwait fell short of their intended target. According to David Gritton with BBC News, Israeli strikes kill 9 in Lebanon as Hezbollah fires rockets over their border. Israeli strikes killed at least 9 people in southern Lebanon on Wednesday, authorities said, as the Iran-backed armed group Hezbollah said it fired rockets into northern Israel. Lebanon's health ministry said the dead included 2 paramedics whose ambulance was hit in a strike in the southern Chehur area. A car was also struck just south of the capital, Beirut. Meanwhile, Israel's military said it intercepted a drone and 2 projectiles that crossed the border. Hezbollah said it targeted a gathering of Israeli troops. The incidents tested a partial ceasefire agreed on Monday, which Lebanon said would see Israel refrain from bombing Beirut in exchange for Hezbollah not attacking Israel. According to the Whistler, Nigeria, others can mobilize $469 billion of extra revenue without tax hikes, AFDB stated. Africa can unlock more than $469 billion in additional annual revenue without raising statutory tax rates, according to the African Development Bank, or AFDB. Professor Kevin Urama, Chief Economist, Vice President for the Economic Governance and Knowledge Management, African Development Bank, said this in an interview with the news agency of Nigeria on Wednesday in Abuja. He said the additional revenue could be mobilized without increasing tax rates, stressing that stronger domestic resource mobilization remained the most sustainable source of development financing for the continent. According to him, improving tax administration through digitalization, strengthening public institutions, and enhancing service delivery would significantly increase tax compliance. He noted that governments could improve voluntary tax compliance by delivering quality public services, strengthening transparency, and ensuring prudent management of public resources. The economist said AFDB was supporting African countries, including Nigeria, to strengthen domestic revenue mobilization through capacity building for national revenue authorities. According to Mumu Technologies Inc., USD Japan yen at 159.98 yen, with the dollar continuing to strengthen after the U.S. May ISM services PMI exceeded expectations. According to Daily Mirror, the rupee slips further against the U.S. dollar. The Sri Lankan rupee has depreciated further against the U.S. dollar today compared to Tuesday, with both buying and selling rates showing an increase. According to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, the buying rate of the U.S. dollar rose from Rs 326.75 to Rs 328, while the selling rate increased from Rs 336.60 to Rs 337.97. Meanwhile, the rupee has shown relative strength against a basket of other major currencies, including the Australian dollar, the euro, and the British pound sterling. According to Business Insider, U.S. stocks are tumbling and bond yields are rising toward critical levels as the Iran war heats up once again. Bitcoin extended its downtrend as sell-off had wiped out $160 billion. This obviously bleeds into other cryptocurrencies like Ethereum and XRP. According to Bitcoin News, the Bitcoin Fear Index actually crashed to 11 as traders debated the 50K floor. The Crypto Fear and Greed Index plunged to 11 on June 3, 2026, one of the lowest sentiment readings in months, as Bitcoin traded near 65,853, and traders publicly debated whether 50,000 is next. According to Shashank Nayar with StockTwits, AVGO stock dropped after hours after Q3 revenue outlook failed to impress. Broadcom expects Q3 revenue at $29.4 billion, higher than the average estimate of $28.5 billion, but much lower than the top-end estimate of $37.5 billion. Emma Thorne with LinkedIn News wrote that Nestle takes over German meal replacement firm in a $520 million deal. Nestle confirmed Wednesday that it's taking full ownership of Y-Food Labs, a German firm that makes meal replacement drinks. The Swiss food giant acquired a 49% stake in Y-Food 3 years ago and is now buying out its founders. Anonymous sources told Bloomberg that the deal values Y-Food at more than $520 million. The acquisition is the first under new Nestle CEO Philipp Navratil and comes after the company merged its nutrition and health science divisions in a bid to better address specific categories like the needs of GLP-1 patients. Fox 26 Houston reported after 105 years of business in more than 330 locations across the country, White Castle is finally arriving in the Lone Star State. So welcome to Texas, and thanks for the jobs. According to Dario, Central Asia and Afghanistan, Uzbek authorities uncovered a $50 million embezzlement scheme involving tax and energy officials. Uzbek prosecutors have launched a criminal investigation into a Uzbekistan $643.2 billion embezzlement scheme involving officials from the tax committee, Uzbek Neftgaz, and several private companies connected to the Shirtan gas chemical complex expansion project. According to Bhagya Silva with Daily Mirror, further reports filed in a U.S. $2.5 million Treasury fraud investigation. A further report regarding the incident in which a sum of U.S. $2.5 million belonging to the Sri Lankan Treasury was transferred to a fraudulent party was submitted to Colombo Fort Magistrate Pasan Amarasina today by the Criminal Investigation Department. At that stage, presenting facts on the progress of the investigation, investigating officers informed court that officials of the Department of External Resources who had carried out the loan repayment process had made the payments based on invoices received through the email address of Export Finance Australia without making any inquiry regarding the original agreement or seeking any further information. Investigating officers further informed court that the data from the server system relating to the said payments had been copied and that 4 CDs containing the data were required to be forwarded to the Forensic Computing Division of the University of Colombo for further analysis. They accordingly sought the magistrate's permission to do so. The magistrate granted permission for the said request. The investigating officers also informed court that statements had been recorded from 42 individuals in connection with the incident. They further produced before court a copy of the post-mortem inquiry report relating to the death of Ranga Nishantha Rajapaksha, Assistant Director of the Department of External Resources, who died while under suspension in connection with the incident. The investigating officers further informed the magistrate that a representative from the Attorney General's Department would appear on a future date to assist court in retaliation to the investigation. The case was fixed to be called again on July 8th. According to Daily Mirror, Sri Lanka and Japan have reached a policy-level agreement to create technical employment opportunities in Japan for Sri Lankan fisheries graduates while strengthening cooperation to modernize Sri Lanka's fisheries sector. The agreement was announced by Minister of Fisheries, Aquatic and Ocean Resources Ramalingam Chandrasekhar following discussions with Japan State Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries Nimoto Yukinori at the Ministry of Fisheries in Tokyo. The discussions focused on enhancing bilateral cooperation in fisheries, aquaculture, and ocean resource management, with particular emphasis on improving Sri Lanka's seafood value chain and expanding the presence of Sri Lankan seafood products in the Japanese market. A key outcome of the meeting was Japan's commitment to provide specialized technical employment opportunities for graduates from fisheries and technology faculties of Sri Lankan universities. Both sides agreed to expedite recruitment and processing arrangements through relevant foreign employment authorities and the Sri Lankan embassy in Tokyo. Minister Chandrasekhar said Japan's support in introducing advanced technology and expertise to Sri Lanka's fisheries industry would help the sector meet international standards and enhance its contribution to the national economy. Sri Lanka's ambassador to Japan, Professor Pivathuru Janaka Kumarasinghe, and Secretary of the Ministry of Fisheries, Aquatic and Ocean Resources, Dr. B.K. Kalitha Kamal Jinadasa, also attended the discussions. According to NBC News, a California standoff suspect is now dead and the hostages are freed. A man who took several people hostage at a California bank building is dead and all hostages have been freed, police said Wednesday following a roughly 15-hour standoff. The suspect had barricaded himself inside the building on Chester Avenue and 17th Street on Tuesday afternoon, prompting a massive law enforcement response that involved crisis negotiators and the FBI. He was pronounced dead at the scene following an officer-involved shooting with FBI personnel, Bakersfield police said in a statement. According to NBC News, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu downplayed any hint of a schism with President Donald Trump, telling CNBC's Sarah Eisen that while they sometimes have tactical disagreements, they agree on the main things, going on to say that, like families, they can disagree on certain things in the morning and by the afternoon have everything worked out. After almost 150 years, ExxonMobil is officially moving its corporate home from New Jersey to Texas. Texas is home to the largest concentration of refining and petrochemical capacity in North America. ExxonMobil operates major assets across Houston, Baytown, Beaumont, and the Permian Basin. Their Baytown and Beaumont facilities alone provide more than 1.2 million barrels per day of refining capacity. ExxonMobil employs more than 13,000 Texans and supports thousands of additional contractor and supply chain jobs across the state. According to Israel National, AP, and Wall Street Journal, Israel is now training dogs to hear drones. Israel's dog unit has reportedly launched a pilot program training dogs to detect Hezbollah drones by sound, alerting soldiers before the drones arrive, especially at night or in poor visibility. It sounds unusual, but the logic is very serious. Hezbollah's FPV and fiber optic drones are cheap, low-flying, difficult to jam, and increasingly lethal, forcing Israeli forces to look beyond classical radar, electronic warfare, and visual detection. For drone warfare, this is the point. Counter-drone defense is no longer one sensor, one jammer, or one interceptor. It's becoming a layered warning system that may include radar, acoustics, optics, human observers, and even trained animals. Emily Hens with the University of Florida is talking about how a laser origami could build structures in space. UF laser origami research could shape future moon construction. Researchers are also investigating how laser forming could make it possible to manufacture with materials that are difficult or impossible to shape using conventional methods. The technology could create new possibilities for building tools, infrastructure, and other systems in space where conventional manufacturing equipment is often too large or difficult to use. University of Florida researchers are exploring how lasers could help astronauts build structures on the moon using materials already available there, including lunar soil transformed into glass. The work, led by Victoria M. Miller, PhD, an associate professor in the Herbert Wertheim College of Engineering and researcher with the UF Astraea Space Institute, recently completed a DARPA-funded research phase focused on laser forming, a manufacturing process that bends materials without physical contact. The team's latest paper, published in Lasers in Manufacturing and Materials Processing, examined how different atmospheric conditions affect laser bending, an important question for future manufacturing in the vacuum of space. The same technology could eventually allow astronauts to manufacture tools and replacement parts in orbit or on the moon instead of transporting large inventories from Earth. One of the team's most promising experiments involved using lunar regolith, the loose rock and dust found on the moon's surface. One of the experiments that we did was having a collaborator make a piece of glass out of lunar soil simulant, Miller said, and then we used our laser bending technology to bend the lunar glass. As UF expands its role in space research, Miller said the project reflects a broader collaborative and future-focused direction for the university. I think that this research reflects the direction of space research at UF because it is collaborative and future-looking, Miller said, looking at how we can build things on the moon, build things on Mars, and how we can actually make sure that astronauts stay safe and healthy. China's Long March 12B rocket completes a successful first flight. This comes from friendsofnasa.org. China on Monday, June 1st, 2026, successfully launched the Long March 12B Y-1 carrier rocket into space from the Dongfeng Commercial Space Innovation Pilot Zone in northwest China. The rocket blasted off at 4:40 p.m. Beijing time, sending a group of networking satellites for the Chanfan space sail constellation into their preset orbits. The mission was declared a complete success. The mission was the maiden flight of Long March 12B rocket and marked the 647th flight mission of the Long March carrier rocket series. The Long March 12B, Changzheng 12B, abbreviated CZ-12B, is a Chinese reusable medium lift to heavy lift launch vehicle. The rocket has 2 stages, and its first stage is designed to be reused after stage recovery via a propulsive landing. Both stages of the rocket use kerosene and liquid oxygen, or LOX, for propulsion. The rocket is being developed by the China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation Commercial Rocket Company Limited, or CACL, operating under the state-owned China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation, CASC. D4.37M, 9YF10 2V kerosene and liquid oxygen Kerolox engines were in the first stage, and 1YF102V in the second stage. Benedict Collins with Tech Radar wrote on May 11th, so this is a few days ago, that dizziness, nausea, vertigo, and sleep disruption are occurring near data centers. So the undetectable hum of AI data centers is making local residents sick. The cooling systems and generators of AI data centers are causing illnesses. Noise emitted from data centers is below the threshold of human hearing. The infrasound can be felt and is causing dizziness, nausea, anxiety, and more. So what do y'all think about this? Let me know in the comments. According to a YouTube video with the Times of India, the delicate regional truce in the Gulf has officially collapsed into a theater of blood and twisted metal. In the early hours of June 3rd, a lethal swarm of Iranian RGC drones and ballistic missiles slammed directly into Terminal 1 of Kuwait International Airport, killing an Indian national and leaving at least 63 civilians severely wounded. Airspace has been completely shuttered as the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps claims the carnage was direct retaliation for Western maneuvers on Keshem Island. Watch the shocking footage from that source. According to Reuters and Baltic States Reddit forums, the U.S. is discussing whether to deploy nuclear weapons in additional European NATO states, the Financial Times reported on Tuesday. U.S. officials have signaled openness to additional deployments beyond the existing 6 countries hosting nuclear-capable bombers, the FT said, citing 3 people briefed on the discussions. The move would involve more countries to host so-called U.S. dual-capable aircraft, DCA, which are able to deliver nuclear strikes, the newspaper said, while cautioning that an agreement to expand U.S. nuclear hosting was not imminent. Countries on NATO's eastern flank, including Poland and some Baltic states, were interested in potentially hosting DCA bases, the report said, adding that discussions were ongoing in NATO channels. Reuters could not immediately verify the report. The White House, Department of Defense, and NATO did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Pentagon Policy Chief Elbridge Colby has previously said publicly that the U.S. will continue to use its nuclear weapons to protect NATO members, even as European allies take the lead on conventional forces. U.S. President Donald Trump and many of his aides have criticized European allies for not spending enough on their militaries and relying on the U.S. for conventional defense. Lithuania's defense minister, Robertas Konas, says Vilnius is participating in classified discussions on potentially extending U.S. nuclear sharing arrangements to more NATO countries. That matters because this is not only about weapons or basing, it's about reassurance on NATO's eastern flank at a moment when allies are watching the balance between U.S. nuclear commitment and conventional force posture very closely. For nuclear deterrence, the signal is clear. Eastern allies want visible proof that extended deterrence still covers the most exposed parts of the alliance, especially as Russia keeps using nuclear signaling to shield conventional aggression. The details remain classified and no decision should be assumed, but Lithuania's message is already political. Deterrence cannot remain a Western European legacy arrangement if the threat geography has moved east. For European security, that is the real debate. Nuclear sharing may reassure, but it cannot replace conventional mass, air defense, logistics, depth, or forward readiness. The eastern flank needs both the umbrella and the shield. According to John Strapczewski and Gareth Jones with Reuters, excuse me, guys, European automotive, construction, metals, chemicals, and transport sectors could lose up to 1.3 million jobs this year as a result of a surge in energy prices caused by the U.S.-Iran conflict, Labor Commissioner Roxana Minzadu said on Wednesday. Due to the war in the Middle East, up to 1.3 million jobs are at risk, and we were talking about jobs in energy-intensive industry, particularly, Minzadu told a news conference. The EU automotive sector could face the biggest layoffs of up to 600,000, the European Commission estimated. Construction, metals, chemicals, transport could lose 56,000 jobs. Some 85,000 jobs in battery projects could be at risk, and 58,852 jobs in solar manufacturing. Another 4,500 jobs could go in the steel sector because of low carbon measures. Low-income households could spend an additional 1.4% of income on transport fuels. The EU manufacturing sector employs around 30 million people, while services provide almost 87 million jobs. According to Kanchana Chakravarti with Reuters, SpaceX will disrupt $1.6 trillion U.S. communications industry, Oppenheimer says. SpaceX opens new tab will disrupt the $1.6 trillion U.S. communications industry as the Elon Musk-led company satellite broadband unit Starlink expands, Oppenheimer said in a note on Wednesday, adding that legacy broadband providers like AT&T opens new tab may be at most risk. The brokerage raised its estimate for 2035 space revenue to $800 billion from $500 billion earlier, ahead of the company's highly anticipated IPO this month. The expansion of Starlink is expected to further pressure cable firms, which are already losing subscribers. Oppenheimer said companies such as AT&T, Verizon Communications, Opens New Tab, and T-Mobile Opens New Tab could see faster declines in subscribers and revenue going forward. The brokerage expects Starlink to entrench itself in many critical applications, reducing churn and increasing pricing power. Oppenheimer raised its 2030 estimates for U.S. broadband subscribers to 15 million from 10 million earlier. SpaceX's rise could also tap into the $500 billion handset market as the company aims to replace smartphones, Oppenheimer said. Should SpaceX execute on its mission, it will be the modern-day East India company of space, controlling routes, infrastructure, and commerce of an entire frontier and giving it a quasi-sovereign reach far beyond that of any ordinary corporation, Oppenheimer said. The company is set to debut on the NASDAQ on June 12th and is aiming to reach a $1.75 trillion valuation in the IPO, Reuters has reported. SpaceX's valuation is grounded in Starlink, which has over 10 million subscribers, and the launch business that analysts and investors say has transformed access to orbit. According to Andrew Barker with LinkedIn News, SpaceX will also look to raise around $75 billion in its initial public offering, selling 555.6 million shares at roughly $135 apiece, according to an anonymously sourced Reuters report. That would give Elon Musk's space company a valuation around $1.75 trillion. Morningstar analysts warned that the company is significantly overvalued, however, pegging its value at closer to $780 billion because of concerns over the profitability of XAI. SpaceX was last valued at $1.25 trillion in February when it merged with Musk's AI firm. ABC News wrote that after 6 months of radio silence, NASA's Mars Maven spacecraft has been declared dead. The space agency confirmed Wednesday that the mission had ended after more than a decade of observations. Launched in 2013 to study the red planet's atmosphere from orbit, Maven mysteriously fell silent in December after passing behind Mars. Data indicated the spacecraft went into a fast spin, which disrupted its orbit and drained the onboard batteries. A review board convened by NASA earlier this year concluded that the spacecraft is useless and unable to be recovered. An investigation continues into what caused the problem. Focus Taiwan reports that a Taiwan research group to work with U.S. defense firm on drone development. The government-sponsored Metal Industries Research and Development Center, or MIRDC, on Wednesday signed a memorandum of understanding with U.S.-based defense technology developer Anduril Industries on the development of unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs. The MOU was signed by MIRDC chairperson Liu Cha-ju and Anduril founder Palmer Luckey in Taipei and witnessed by Industrial Development Administration IDA Director General Cho Hui. In a statement, the IDA under the Ministry of Economic Affairs said cooperation will focus on the development of AI autonomous systems and key drone components, while the two parties will integrate the supply chain, promote localized productions, and expand technology exchanges. According to Mint News, A devastating fire broke out at the Flourish Stay Hotel in Delhi's Malviya Nagar this morning, killing at least 21 people, including foreign nationals. Over 40 others were rescued. The hotel was allegedly operating far beyond its licensed capacity. And that was from India. According to CME Alerts and Mr. MBB333 on Facebook, a strong X1 solar flare just occurred, causing an R3 radio blackout here on Earth. Just a few short hours ago, the sun erupted with two large M-class solar flares and a powerful X-class flare in rapid succession. But that wasn't the biggest development. The eruptions launched a massive cloud of solar plasma known as a coronal mass ejection, and early tracking suggests it could be headed directly toward Earth. If the CME remains on its current path, it could arrive within the next 24 to 48 hours and potentially trigger a strong geomagnetic storm. This could bring enhanced auroras, radio disruptions, GPS interference, and significant disturbances within Earth's magnetic field. Tropical storm Amanda formed Wednesday morning and poses no threat to land stationed southwest of the United States in the Pacific Ocean. Bizarre stories of New York City sewer explorations with people with shovels and totes are raising a lot of questions for investigators. According to CBS News, days after a meteor exploded over New England, another fireball was spotted, visible in the Midwest to the northeast. And I believe this was the fifth known object that has gone overhead. According to conflictly.app, a Royal Navy helicopter went down during training, and all three crew members were lost. It crashed in southwest England. Romania is also accelerating one of the largest military modernization programs in Eastern Europe, new air defense systems, anti-drone capabilities, and Black Sea assets because Ukraine-Russian drones keep getting uncomfortably close to NATO territory. According to World News Now, Peebo Bryson dies at 75. His voice propelled some of Disney's most powerful songs to the top of the charts. So prayers out to the family there. According to Meteored on Facebook, a tornado struck Rome, Italy. The phenomenon caused fallen trees and damage to homes, vehicles, and infrastructure in the Monte Sacro area. According to Creative Society, a major forest fire continued in the Murcia region of Spain. Heavy rainfall, gusty winds, and hail of varying intensities affected Piedmont and parts of Lombardy, Italy. A magnitude 6.2 earthquake struck off the coast of Calabria. Turin, Italy was also hit pretty hard with gusts of wind. In India, Jammu and Kashmir were hit by severe weather, including heavy rain, hail, gusts, and lightning, severe thunderstorms, gusty winds, and large hail through Bulgaria, bringing heavy rain, thunderstorms, and hail to several regions of the country. Heavy rainfall occurred in the Galați County of Romania. A heavy downpour with hail caused widespread flooding in the Coajimalpa neighborhood in the western part of the Mexico City. The Purisay volcano erupted in Colombia as well. According to the Japan Wire by Kyoto News and Rishav Kathari with Watchers News, Typhoon Jangmi made landfall in Japan's Wakayama Prefecture. Severe tropical storm Jangmi leaves 23 injured, 60,000 without power after landfall in Wakayama, Japan. Excuse me, guys. Severe tropical storm Jangmi made landfall over southern Wakayama Prefecture at 4:30 Japan Standard Time on June 3rd. Bringing heavy rainfall and strong winds that injured at least 23 people and damaged 57 homes, left more than 60,000 customers without power, and prompted evacuation orders affecting more than 400,000 residents. The storm also triggered the first Level 5 special flood warning issued under Japan's new 5-level disaster alert system. According to Fox 26 Houston, the Texas Attorney General has launched an investigation into major food and pesticide companies over concerns that children are being exposed to potentially harmful levels of glyphosate herbicide residues in everyday food products. According to Fox News Health, a personalized mRNA melanoma vaccine cut the risk of cancer recurrence or death by 49% over 5 years, according to new data from Merck and Moderna. The therapy teaches a patient's immune system to recognize their specific tumor mutations and attack them. A final stage confirmation trial is now underway. Congresswoman Nancy Mace secured a $161,700,000 authorization for a nuclear power training facility simulation expansion at Joint Base Charleston in the base text of the FY27 National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA. Joint Base Charleston is one of the most critical military installations in the country. Investing in its nuclear power training capabilities means investing directly into the readiness and strength of our national defense. And that's over, I believe, South Carolina. Secretary of State Rubio testifies before Senate subcommittee on President Trump's foreign policy agenda. Some answers got heated as he was not able to be yielded time to speak at certain points. There's actually kind of a funny video out right now about that. According to the conservative brief, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez appeared alongside New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani during an Eid al-Adha celebration held at Maycomb's Dam Park in the Bronx on May 27, 2026. Ocasio-Cortez wore a red-patterned hijab while addressing attendees at the event, which drew members of the city's Muslim community for one of Islam's most significant religious observances. Mamdani, the city's first Muslim mayor, also participated in the celebration wearing a kurta that incorporated design elements resembling an Arsenal soccer jersey, a nod to both his cultural background and support for the English football club. This is bringing some scandalous attention to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. United States President Donald J. Trump signed a couple of new executive actions yesterday and today. First, we have the promoting of advanced artificial intelligence, innovation, and security. It is the policy of the United States to promote AI innovation and security by working collaboratively with the private sector to modernize government and private sector information systems and harden them against external threats, to protect American ingenuity and intellectual property from exploitation and theft by adversaries, and to cultivate America's advanced AI-enabled capabilities. Second, we have a customs executive order which will target illicit substances and items coming in and out of the country in the trade environment, especially in regards to tariff evasion, a seeming pushback on illegal items being brought in from various countries. It will also target businesses hiding behind shell companies. The third one signed was for reforms in the federal workforce. Due to former rules, they were unable to promote or demote people for making policy decisions. This will make policymakers accountable for their decisions in the federal workforce to the administration. Andrea Sue with NPR claims that this actually strips protections for 8,000 federal workers. Earlier today, Donald Trump announced that the next step in the administration's successful war on crime is the Department of Justice's Model Cities initiative, which is designed to slash violent crime and restore law and order in major cities across America. Scott Wong and Kyle Stewart with NBC News reported that the House voted to rebuke Trump over their war with, over his war with Iran. The House passed a largely symbolic war powers resolution Wednesday over objections from Republican leaders that it would weaken the president's hand in negotiations with Iran. It was one of two Democratic-led measures opposed by the White House that advanced in the GOP-led House. Lawmakers also passed a motion that would unlock a vote on sending aid to Ukraine. Mary Claire Jelinek, Kevin Frecking, and Joey Chapoletti with AP News wrote that the Senate begins voting on funding immigration enforcement after Trump's settlement fund is dropped. The Republican-led Senate is moving forward with legislation to fund immigration enforcement agencies after forcing the White House to drop its settlement fund for political allies and stripping a separate proposal for White House security from the bill. The Senate voted 53 to 46 on Wednesday to begin debate on the roughly $70 billion bill to fund U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and the Border Patrol. The legislation was delayed for weeks as Republican senators navigated the various obstacles to passage created by President Donald Trump and the White House, but they are now moving quickly to pass it after paring it back to its original form. So far, Democrat Karen Bass is in the lead for Los Angeles mayor at 34.8% with 172,720 votes against Republican Spencer Pratt at 30.4% and 151,149 votes. For governorship, on the other hand, this is changing as Steve Hilton leads as a Republican at 27.8% with 1,387,459 votes. Democrat Xavier Becerra at 25.4% and 1,267,375 votes, according to the LA Times. However, results can still change up to a week because California allows mail-in ballots. Let me know what you think about this race in the comments below. So that is our daily roundup of news. I hope y'all enjoyed this and maybe found something that hasn't been discussed in mainstream media. I hope y'all have a blessed day. Bye for now.